Okay, so let's not waste any time because this is the PVE tier list. Everyone's pretty balanced, everyone's pretty good. This game does not follow the traditional MMO party system where you need a tank support and a DPS. Everyone can be their own DPS and everyone can just bring their own heal potions and heal up, so you don't really need a healer. Everyone can also take damage on their own and evade abilities and be good with evasion. Okay, so all these characters can deal a lot of damage on their own and be very good on their own as well. So that is your PVE tier list. Everyone's pretty good. Yes. What's up everyone, Gids here for another video on Crystal of Atlan, and today we will be doing a tier list for PvP, specifically 1v1, because I did not really have a lot of chance, or I did really not get any chance to test out the 3v3 version for the PvP. So we're just going to focus on 1v1 PvP here, and all the info that I have right now is based from testing on the precursor test, the 2-week test that we had on Crystal of Atlan, and by interacting with other players as well, especially since I don't main everything. I only mained a bounty hunter and a Scytheguard and partially an Elementalist. Okay, so those are the 3 classes that I have the most experience on. Everything else is just based on how I fought them in 1v1 scenarios and from other players' information as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Okay, first on our list is the Bounty Hunter. So the Bounty Hunter is a pretty good character. So you'd think she's a ranged character, but from what I've done, there's a lot of her abilities that actually lets her go in and melee the enemy. So you're gonna be going in a lot and you'll be dealing a lot of damage. The only problem that I see with regards the Bounty Hunter is that it's very easy to actually extreme dodge or perfect dodge her abilities, and if they just get that timing right, you're gonna be punished so hard. But in terms of damage, you deal a lot of damage, and again, the kit is really good. There's a lot of evasion in here. There's a lot of movement speed as well, so she's very agile as well, and she's probably like a mid-range fighter. You don't really want to be at a very long distance with the Bounty Hunter, and of course, with enough mastery, you can be placing in the leaderboards with this one, which is why this class ends up in A tier. Next class from the Musketeer base class is going to be the Gunner. Gunner is pretty fun to play, especially with some of her abilities, and she's more of the ranged character really, but there are also melee abilities if you choose to go to the melee route for the Gunner, because you can actually do that because her bombs or her equipment can actually change into 3 forms. So you have the EM gun, the rocket launcher, and also melee form where she smacks the enemies with her big gun. Okay, so this one's a pretty fun one to play, but I personally don't like it. But in the hands of a good Gunner player, this is also actually in an A tier. So if you are really good at utilizing your range against the enemies and of course going in at perfect timings, then yeah, it can be really good. So a lot of the characters again are pretty balanced, like they have almost the same power levels except for a few, which is going to be one of the next ones here, which is the Berserker. Okay, Berserker is one of the more annoying classes to face against, but one of the more fun characters to actually play in 1v1. Reason being is that most of his abilities have medium SA, meaning you're kind of uninterruptible once you start using your abilities. Granted that one of his passives makes him slower in casting his abilities, but it doesn't really matter as long as you're dealing massive amounts of damage. You have a huge shield, and you're also on medium SA almost every time you cast ability. That's why this guy is very, very strong and very, very scary to come up against. So don't try to counter him when he's using his abilities. Like, just time it perfectly, try to dodge. One way you can actually fight against this guy is to just keep dodging in the air, because a lot of his abilities are ground only or hits in the ground only. So you can dodge by doing some double jumps. Okay, but anyways, this guy is pretty obnoxious when it comes to 1v1 PvP. Again, the shields, the damage, and also once he's at 1 HP, he actually has an undying passive. So if you know Tryndamere from League of Legends, he will stay at 1 HP, and when he hits you, he's gonna have some lifesteal, and after like 10 seconds, I think, damage will be calculated. So if you did not deal enough damage and he was able to heal off of you or hit you a bunch of times, he's gonna be able to heal up and come back from there. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty scary one. Okay, next character we have the Magiblade. So Magiblade, the second option for class awakening that you get from the swordsman class. Unfortunately, he is not as good as the Berserker. This guy is based off of attack speed. So if the Berserker is the guy that hits you hard, is low but hits you hard, this guy is the one that hits you a lot but does not deal a lot of damage, and there's not a lot of super armors on this guy, which is the big difference that he has against the Berserker. There's a lot of complicated things that you can do, but if you practice well enough on the Magiblade, you can get into rankings, of course, because he looks really cool, man. I want this guy to be good because he looks really cool. But the problem is, level of complexity that's for the Magiblade is just, I guess, too much for the amount of damage that he's dealing. And yeah, the complexity, basically, it's pretty hard to play him. But if you get to master it, then you might get into higher rankings, but it's going to be pretty hard, a little bit harder than the other classes. So if you like a good challenge, probably play the Magiblade. Actually, I might put him down here. He can be really good, of course, but it's super hard, man. Yeah, he does not have any medium armor break ability, so there's no way for you to counter any abilities or trade with other players with any abilities, because you're gonna lose most of the time. Because if they have a medium armor break ability, then you might just get staggered, stunned, or whatever, and you lose the trade. Okay, next character that we have is Scytheguard. I'm just gonna put it here as yay. Not biased at all. Not biased at all. I mained her and I saw the strengths. You have an engage or a gap closer ability that has medium armor break and a medium SA, medium super armor, at 7-second cooldown. Bro, how broken is that, man? How broken is that? Medium armor break and medium SA. Like, you can just engage whenever it's off cooldown, and if you miss, you just disengage or throw some of your abilities away. But this guy, man, it's so hard to also get a super armor or perfect dodge on it, because some of his abilities are hitting multiple times. So you might be able to super armor the first one, but you get caught up in the multiple damage instances and you get staggered anyway. So it's going to be pretty hard. This character has two abilities that has medium SA, medium armor break, and one of them, again, I mentioned, is just on 7-second cooldown, which is pretty scary and very strong. So yeah, unless they should do something about that, I think this is going to be the list. Like, it's going to be super strong and very oppressive when it comes to PvP. But again, it's not 100% win rate for the Scytheguard. Some players may be able to outmaneuver you. Again, play in the air, because the grappling ability usually only works in the ground, but it can kind of work in air as well if you are in the air. So yeah, just get good. You'll be able to beat these guys, but they're going to have an easy time trying to deal with everyone else. All right, next up, we have the Blademaiden. Okay, Blademaiden, again, is also from the Puppeteer base class. So this one's kind of unique because the Blademaiden is a class where you actually play around the marionette instead of playing around the Scytheguard's marionette, because the Scytheguard's marionette always sticks by your character. But this one, the Blademaiden's marionette, has its own thing. He's always going off on his own, and the ranges of his abilities, of your abilities, are based off the range of your marionette. So a lot of the abilities are based off the marionette. So it can be pretty fun with interrupting the enemies, because they can try to go ahead and hit you and stagger you, but if you've already casted your ability on the marionette is not going to be hittable. You can't hit the marionette, and your marionette can just disrupt the combos of the enemies while they're trying to go on you. So it's also a pretty fun one, but I'll put it on A. Also has a lot of damage, and yeah, pretty much it. Next up, Warlock, one of the worst classes that I've ever tried. I don't like it at all, but objectively speaking, I don't think it's much harder to play than a Magiblade. Magiblade, I think, has the worst kit right now in PvP 1v1s during the precursor test. So I think I'm going to be rating this guy on B. He's pretty okay. He deals a lot of good damage as well, but he's more of a melee magic caster than a long-range magic caster. So yeah, it's pretty good. If you like dark magic and are pretty edgy and be emo, I guess, Warlock might be for you. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. You can try to keep up with his passives and keep his abilities. Of course, yeah, his ultimate is pretty cool if you get to that point, but I doubt it. It's pretty hard to play him as well. Not like the other classes up here, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the Warlock. And I don't know why I don't like it, but yeah, that's just for me. And lastly, we have the Elementalist. So Elementalist has a really good set of skills where you can actually be in melee and be also in range. And the good thing, or my favorite thing about the Elementalist is that when you deal damage, when it comes to PvP or 1v1 PvP, there's HP thresholds, right? This guy's damage can go over the HP thresholds, which is actually crazy. So a good Elementalist player can actually take advantage of that and just burst down a lot of people. Like, your HP is going to be gone in chunks, very fast chunks. So yeah, it's going to be very scary to be fighting a good Elementalist player, but he would still drop at A tier for me, not as OP as the Berserker and the Scytheguard. Okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it for our tier list in PvP. So this is again 1v1. If you have thoughts, comments, suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Of course, these are all my opinions, so feel free to pitch in whatever ideas you have or thoughts that you have on the classes. Maybe some Magiblade users out there can either confirm or deny what I said about the Magiblade, and even the Warlock players out there. If you've had a tough time or you've had an easy time in Arena, let us know in the comments down below. That's it for me. Leave a like, subscribe for more Crystal of Atlan content, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.